Hello, everyone. Good evening and a very warm summary welcome to all of you to this roundtable discussion brought to you by ETHRWorld and MeritTrac Services. I'm Pooja Bhutra, Senior Content Lead, ETHRWorld, and your host for this session. We've come together to talk about the smart hiring strategy to win in the talent economy. Before I introduce the industry speakers who are at the helm of recruitment in the organizations, I will take a minute or two to set the context. In these disruptive times, challenging the status quo is a normative approach to talent management and development. As organizations race to digitalize at scale, having the right talent gives them an edge to adapt tech-driven models faster to remain competitive. The question is, how do you devise an agile and future-ready hiring strategy to navigate through the new talent economy comprising highly selective candidates who are ever willing to engage with multiple organizations before closing an offer? Given that an enterprise's recruitment strategy speaks volumes about its culture, employee centricity, and the leadership's commitment to innovation and transformation, getting it right would mean leading the best people to its threshold. So, dear viewers, we have come together to share notes on the most prevalent recruitment processes and how automation has led to personalized experience from the application stage to onboarding. I will now get the panel in. So please join me in welcoming Nidhi Pathak, Managing Director and Head of Talent Planning, Nagaro; Padmini Giri, Associate Vice President, TA, Global Logic; Atirik Gautam, Global Head, TA, Sutherland; Sanjay Dutt, Senior VP, Global Head of HR, Centers of Excellence, EXL Services; Sujata Kumara Swami, CEO, MeritTrac Services. Good evening, all of you, and welcome to this roundtable discussion. Audience, I'd like to welcome you once again to this session. We would like to make this session very engaging for you. So please use the Q&A tab on your screen to post your questions for the panel. We'll start taking your questions right from the beginning of the session. So do not wait till the last to put your questions. We want to make this session extremely interactive, so your inputs will be very important. Let's start talking about talent economy with first understanding from the leaders on this table. What are the critical recruitment trends that they see in their industry? And are those indicative of a talent economy that we talk about? I would request Sanjay to, help us understand that. What does recruitment look like in his industry today?
Thanks, Pooja, and great to be here. So let me jump right in. And if you don't mind, I'll just, talk a little macro first, just to set the context, since you asked me to speak first. So, if you look at it, the value agenda for most of the companies have shifted, where they are earning money for most of the organizations, particularly, in the space that we have representation today, has drastically shifted. And with that, the type of talent that we need, right? So this talent carries what we call hot skills, and their supply, because of the futuristic multidisciplinary abilities we are looking at, the supply is far lower than the demand. Add to that the increased numbers which need to be hired because of growth. Well, it's really nice to grow, but then along with that comes this whole thing about hiring more people. The recent pandemic-led changes, which has really obviously shifted paradigms about how we work, and the more recent inflationary macroeconomic trends. And you suddenly have a situation where it's incredibly tough to hire talent in higher numbers. Now, commenting on the question which you raised, you see, while the volatility of demand and faster innovation cycles, what they're doing is they're creating a heightened demand for skills. It is also almost impossible to predict the skills we need, right? Because, it's not like you can create a pipeline and you can start looking at internal talent to build it up. You need on-demand talent supply, which transcends borders, almost in a very, very rapid kind of churn kind of timelines. Add to that, employees today are not following work anymore. It's the work who is going to employees. So if you put all of that together, people moving freely towards, in between organizations and geographies, etc., and seeking out workplaces which better suit their needs. I think in this situation, organizations have really 3 or 4 choices. First, which is the most obvious, they go after talent and throw more money, right? I don't think that's sustainable personally. Let's hear from the other panelists beyond a certain point. So we have to start looking at different value propositions. They're equally important, but maybe not actually, if I may use the term, exploited that much. So flexible work arrangements, whether it's location or timings, newer benefits, which could include healthcare, which could include, other benefits, long-term retention tools such as, ESPP and other, developmental programs. So I really think that the whole recruitment game, if I were to sum it up today, is no longer talent acquisition, but it's really leading the talent market. And companies which can lead the talent market as opposed to respond to the talent, kind of demands, they'll probably win.
Those are wonderful insights, Sanjay. Thank you for setting those. You have kickstarted this roundtable discussion with absolutely the right tone that we needed. I'll just get Sujata in because she is partnering with many organizations for their recruitment practices. So let's see what she has to say about the critical trends in the industry, across industries on recruitment.
Thanks, Pooja, and thanks, Sanjay, for a very comprehensive, view, right, of where we are headed. So there used to be a time when we used to say that everyone in the organization is a sales guy or lady, right? I mean, all of us sell. We still do that. But today, actually, it's a very interesting shift is that all of us are recruiters. Each one of us, irrespective of the industry we are working in, the role we are playing, I think a significant chunk of our time is just going into getting the right talent in. I think that's a very, very dramatic change. We see certainly, as an organization working with HR, talent acquisition leaders, not just in India, but across the globe, right? So that's the focus, and that's really the pressure, on this particular part of the organization that we see, right? So a few interesting experiences and, based on the client speak, right? And how their mandate to us, as MeritTrac, as, their assessment partner has changed, over the last couple of years, especially, right? One is there is a very, much more sharper focus, I'll say, on outcomes. So it's not just about, and these are long-term outcomes. I think, Sanjay, you spoke about that, right? I think it's not just about closing numbers and fulfilling positions. It's not just that. It's of course, turnaround times and cycle times are critical, but it's also about fit. Because all this money, time, effort that's going into onboarding in a very high pressure kind of environment, in a very different market context, the person has to be the right fit, for the role and the culture of the organization as well, right? So we're seeing a lot more emphasis on assessing fit, because that's a very key lead indicator for retention. And that's become, very fundamental to as an outcome as well, is that it's not just hiring people and then having them leave 1 month into the organization. Are you able to, on a long-term basis, retain them and groom them and, give them exciting career paths in the ecosystem, right? So I think that's become a very clear shift in trend as compared to, 2-3 years ago. We're certainly seeing a lot more openness. I mean, not just openness. I mean, people, our customers have completely embraced technology. Earlier there used to be this mindset that, all hiring has to be manual. Every single round of filtering that candidate has to go through, there's got to be a human in it, and it's got to go through all these cycles, and that it has its pros, it has its cons as well, right? I mean, in the past, you did see all kinds of bias in the entire process coming through and so on, right? But today there's I mean, the way technology has been embraced in the entire hiring life cycle is just simply amazing, right? And it is end to end, right from the time a job opportunity or a role is sort of identified in the in the organization, right? So use of technology, and also use, especially in the first few rounds of filtering as part of the hiring, the selection process, the right and the most useful set of AI, algorithms, basically, using the power of AI to help you screen through the initial set of rounds faster and better. So I think these are a couple of trends. There's one more I want to speak about is, from what we've seen, I mean, we've been in this industry now for over 20 years. Just I don't think people really recognized the power of data and the power of analytics. And, over the course of the session, I think we will speak a little more about that. I'm sure the panelists will have some interesting experiences to share as well. But just the power of analytics, in speeding up hiring, in getting the right set of people into your company, in making plans and having interventions to retain them, is has just has been a huge shift in the last couple of years. So I think these are some other broad trends that we see as a partner and a service provider to our customers in the hiring world.
Thank you, Sujata, for that. And both Sanjay and Sujata have told us about interesting aspects of the talent economy. As some industries are scaling, the demand for talent is increasing. And that's another reason why supply is less and demand is more. You're not looking just to hire, you're looking for culture fit, you're looking at long-term retention goals. AI, data, technology is helping you in the talent economy. Now I'd like to ask the speakers, how has all this impacted a change in their hiring processes, let's say over the last 2 years? Nidhi, followed by Athirik.
Thanks, Pooja. Yeah, a very pertinent discussion and a very, good, angle to that. The talent economy, as we call it, and we definitely have a talent-driven, market right now. We have candidates who have a lot of choices. They're spoiled for choices. You see the salaries are dynamic. You also see that people are not joining. They take an offer, and the conversion ratios are lower. So this all indicates that, of course, there's a dearth of supply, or the demand is too much. And as a company, what we need to do is to build a brand, build a strong brand, the awareness, people identifying with the brand. Now, at Nagarro, for example, we started the work from anywhere policy, and that's something that we are taking forward. The other thing that we need to do, or have been doing or working on, is the candidate experience through the complete hiring life cycle. In addition to the candidate experience, also the employee experience, because people talk, right? So, the word travels. So the whole experience during the hiring process and beyond that, and for employees that are there in the organization, that has to be made better, and that has to be made better at a scale that we are also hiring. So, Nagarro, we are growing very fast. We added 5,000 people in 2021 net of attrition, and so scalability along with a focus on how to do this better through processes and automation has been our key strategy for this.
Athirik, your thoughts?
Right. So Thanks, Pooja. Thanks, Nidhi. I think it's a great question. And what is interesting is that it is mid of the week, Wednesday afternoon, and we still see 110 participants. That only implies how critical this topic is for each one of us to come together and try to share our experiences with one organization to the other, one colleague to the other. I would like to start with what one of the greatest scientists once said, that if you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, that's insanity. And I think this is what we have learned in the unprecedented situation of pandemic, which means that the talent marketplace today is a seller's market. And the ones who adapted first, particularly, are ahead of the curve today. What it means to us is that if we go with the statistics, at least 75% of the talent population today believes that the flexibility of working from anywhere is mandatory. Nobody is requesting. It's like given on the table. Virtuous selection process is going to be the evolving normal. There is no coming back from here now. The post and pray has had its day, no longer relevant. So to be specific, talent marketplaces are like buses, and opportunity marketplaces are like cars, which means your hiring strategy is going to be the combination of automobiles that you choose, right? One is for the mass, and the other one is for a specific destination and the kind of people that you want to bring in your organization. And overall, if I look at the workforce strategy, I've always said this, and I strongly believe the go-to strategy has to be hire less, build more, and borrow some. So I think that's something which is very relevant for our existing industry.
Thank you, Athirik. I'll just take one audience question here. So we have an audience question that this person is asking that generally employees before their appraisal do go and look out for what they can extract or what value they could get in the marketplace, in other organizations. So what's your thought on that? Is that a great practice to do? And how do employers, how does HR deal with such kind of situations? Anyone would like to take that?
I certainly have a view which is very short, so maybe I can just go. I don't think it is pertinent or what's our view. Like I said earlier, employees and employers are now on a far more equal term than ever, right? It's a free market. We're calling it the talent market, right? So I think everything's fair if people are sensing the opportunity. From my standpoint, if people are doing that, there's no way we can stop it. Yes, of course, we can ring fence people, etc. But I don't think that is something which we should feel surprised or shocked about. I mean, Nidhi talked about people taking on offers, and we have last day dropouts, right? People who have to join next day, and people. So we may question these, how ethical and all of that. But, Pooja, really, I don't think we are in a situation where we can control this anymore. This is going to get more and more prevalent.
True that. It's only for, people who are in the mid-careers. Do you think it's a good thing for them to base their careers in this kind of a, shopping thing, or, just seeing what value you can get and moving to new employers? What would your advice be to them actually? Sanjay?
Oh, I thought I'd been speaking too much. So I thought.
No, I thought maybe, if some of our viewers who plan to,
So Pooja, no, okay. Look, no, this is a very good question because this is, and I'm going to give you a bit of a traditional answer because I think at heart, many of us, I certainly am, a very traditional person in my thinking. So I think, ultimately the whole game is about value, right? So when a person carries a specific value to an organization, that person, she or he, gets, a remuneration or compensation which is based on that value. People switch jobs to kind of try and get a disproportionate return on a particular value they're getting. But sooner or later, it's going to catch up with you, right? So You may shift one job. I know people who've shifted 7 jobs, 8 jobs, one after the other, and have probably tripled their salary. But beyond a certain point, you need to work at a specific place, create value, deliver that value, make that value a part of your own system, and then take it forward. So yeah, I mean, if you're asking me personally what I suggest, I don't think shifting jobs or shopping around perennially is really going to take you to, greater success than otherwise. Yes, short-term gains are there. And I think today we are probably most of our contending with the right here and now.
Interesting, Sanjay. That's helpful. Padmini, you want to make a point?
So the reality is, what Sanjay said and what Nidhi said, the reality is that today's the demand supply curve is so, there's no curve. It's like whether it's a W or a V, we are still learning our alphabets over here right now. It's nothing like what I've seen in my lifetime of recruiting. And I heard one candidate telling me in one of my interviews that I have one offer right now. I'm expecting another offer and I'm discussing it with you, and I'm going to take a call on which one I'm going to take up. And, money is far more precious to me right now over a brand, over loyalty. So I'm going to take a call a few days from now. So that's the reality. And that's the new normal. The recruiters have to get used to it. You have to be able to sense whether the candidate is actually going to join you or is going to be, absconding on the day of joining. So those are those new, levers that we need to kind of create. Those are those checkpoints that we need to create, which is going to give us those indications on who's going to be a doubtful candidate on the day of joining. Questioning loyalty, questioning whether it's good for their career. They know what's good for their career, and they say money is most important at this point in time. So that's a reality we have to get used to.
I think I totally agree with what Sanjay and Padmini said. So, we're not questioning what is fair, what isn't. I think everybody has the right to, choose the job and the amount of money that's important for them and their time in the career. But yeah, in the end, it's going to catch up. The value that you bring is the value that you will also get in return. So yeah, that's how it's going to be. At least that's what I think.
Thank you, all of you. So moving on, in this era of disruption, when we are kind of rethinking all the business models and processes, how do you as recruiters ensure that your recruitment process is agile, innovative, up with the times? And all this also leads you to, showcase yourself as a powerful employer brand to the candidates in the market. So what's the secret to make your hiring process extremely agile and innovative? Padmini, you'll take a go at this.
So I think technology is going to be the key to our entire agility. Candidates today have so many choices. They're spoiled for choices. They really want us to allow them to upload their CV in like one single switch. It shouldn't take them more than that. It should be the easiest for them to upload a resume against a job posting. They want us to finish their entire selection process in one single day if possible, so that they're out with an offer. So, you said the answer to that is in your question itself. How do we make ourselves more agile? How do we make ourselves more nimble-footed? And how do we keep reinventing ourselves? I have seen recruitment from the time when I used to get resumes as hard copies, and it used to come by post, by snail mail. And today we are, on WhatsApp and Insta, where we get resumes on that, and we are willing to process them. So how do we adapt ourselves using the latest technology? And a technology that even the recruiters find easy to use. Just the way a candidate is able to upload his or her resume, I think processing a candidate through an ATS, which is intelligent, which allows us to take it through to the final stages of an offer, is what is going to make us all extremely competitive in today's market. The candidate should come in for an interview virtually and go out by the end of the day with at least an indicative offer in his hand. While it seems like a very tall ask, but I think that's what is going to make us extremely, extremely wanted in the candidate marketplace today. I think that's my view.
I'll just take one more audience question here, that can we make it legally binding to not revoke an accepted offer? So do you think future entails such kind of regulations or anything like that legally? Anyone?
Yeah, when we have these long tiring meetings and then we give ourselves to a little bit of wishful thinking, then yes. But the unfortunate reality is, guys, absolutely no. Yeah, we've looked at it from different angles. There is no way you can, by the way, even legally, it's not legally binding for you to make a person stay back also in your organization beyond a specific time, right? So yes, answer is no. Short answer is no. Can't be legally binding, not as of now.
In fact, just to add to what Sanjay said, it'll backfire on you. I mean, we just spoke about all these different choices that candidates have. As much research as your recruiters are doing on the candidates, it's the same level of research that's happening on their end. So the moment there is this kind of a a clause, or there's talk on their social media networks, that this organization it's got some policy like this, you'll very, very quickly move very close to the bottom of the the preference list. So it'll actually work the other way around with such an approach.
Constitutionally, I think we are a democratic country, and I don't think there is anything which would allow us to bind a candidate to an offer. It's completely against our the democratic values that we have to go at a very, very high level to state this. Even a bond is illegal in the country. So where are you going to be able to insist that the person joins you if you've made an offer? It's like a bond, right?
True that. So there is another audience question wherein somebody wants to ask Sujata actually that what do you do about attrition? So some of these IT companies are, showing an attrition of about 27%. Is there anything you can do to your recruitment practice to overhaul that?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Sorry, I'm not tracking the Q&A, in parallel. So we'll go back and and read through that. But very interesting question, and very pertinent as well. So one of the major trends I briefly spoke about it is this whole idea of fit. And fit means many different things. You assess culture fit, you assess role fit, you assess EQ, and stuff like that, right? So we actually have some initial a version of a set of assessments which can to some extent gauge pulse and give you a sense of in your employee pool who is actually at a higher risk of of exiting, and are there different interventions needed, especially if they are top performers, and things like that. So we actually do have some beta products around this. I mean, when I say product, I mean assessment kind of products, and we see some huge demand for that, especially in the current attrition number kind of numbers that we are looking at. So very pertinent question, very much going to be a big thing in this space, and yeah, we're close to sort of launching that out.
Thank you, Sujata. So we've already spoken about that, how important is digital hiring, AI-based hiring to hire, efficiently, scale up your hiring. So let's talk more about how your recruiters are using technology for hiring. Atirik?
So Pooja, if we get straight away to how AI or other technology is helping us today, First of all, I would like to start by saying that easy is hard. And we strongly believe that, which means that any process which is easy to implement or execute is always going to be hard for the companies. But the joy of Tech Spirit and the innovation as our partner, we try to keep in touch with tomorrow. So that's the philosophy that we follow. The beauty of AI is that it can use design principles to eliminate the unconscious bias that humans can have. And it's also true that today the offerings are better than ever. And we are no stranger in adopting smart tools to automate our talent acquisition strategies. Just to ensure that, because there are so many offerings, it's easy for you to get carried away. We follow something called a C principle, SEA, where S stands for the speed of execution, E is for experience and engagement, and A is for accuracy of hiring. Speed is where we implement a lot of AI, ML, algorithm-based smart search, which helps us to spot the ace candidate faster. The experience and engagement, which is the E of the C principle, which is absolutely non-negotiable, and it's supported by the applicant tracking system we use, which has the capability of 360-degree feedback mechanism. Finally, accuracy is, I think that's an opportunity area for all of us. But we no longer want guess games. So there's no guesswork involved anymore. So what we utilize is a external platform powered by strong algorithm and codes and some of the assessment questionnaire that we use, which can spot the right hard skill. And when I say hard skill, I'm talking about the technical competency of a candidate. But beyond this, and primarily to eliminate the unconscious bias, we use another set of gamified assessments. Now, these gamified tools are specialized in assessing attributes like monotony tolerance, cognitive abilities, analytical thinking. And further, if we really want to assess, we can also assess candidates on very important element like multitasking competencies, working memory, task switching. So I think the offerings are unlimited. It purely depends on where your focus area is. But yeah, these are some of the smart tools and offerings that's available, and we definitely have adopted.
Thank you, Athirik, for those points. We have an audience question, which is very interesting. Rohan's asking, with the increase in virtual interviewing experience, technologies, and the demand for work from home positions that potential candidates mandate, are we in the HR environment on the brink of losing touch with highly necessary personal experiences like one-to-one interviews in the hiring process, to necessary human interactions needed between existing employees working in the office? So the question is, how do you find the sweet spot between high tech and human tech? I mean, high tech and human touch. So how much gut feeling and intuition, which has always worked for years, are we losing that by just relying on technology and algorithms?
So Pooja, if you don't mind, I'll just kind of, because I just want to, again, maybe give a little bit of a broader answer. So one of the things which you've done at EXL, and which is why, as you read out what I do, you said HR Centers of Excellence. We brought the Centers of Excellence together, right? So one part of my role, while I look after talent acquisition, me and the set of leadership who work with me, there's also digital HR transformation, right? So when you combine technology and transformation with, let's say, a talent initiative such as talent acquisition, then what you realize is that technology essentially is not replacing human touch. It needs to amplify the human touch, right? And I think that's the whole thing. So if you look at it from that lens, who asked this question, or to anybody else? So last evening, we had this amazing conversation with guys at Meta. And the whole conversation was about, how do you amplify, right? Because the fear is very real, right? I mean, if you just become digital and everything digital platform, ATS, digital candidate experience, onboarding, HCM, everything, chatbots, what happens? So you need to very, very consciously design such that your human touch is actually getting magnified and amplified through using technology, which is really very, what shall I say, very prevalent, yet it's very human, right? So it can't just be a machine touch kind of a thing. So I can take an example. I know we talked about virtual reality, but if you look at virtual reality and then start using that innovatively to actually bring emotional connect, you actually have a better than human connect because you can reach out to far many number of people at a far lesser effort. So I'm sure others have a point of view out here, but my point here was really about technology and human together as opposed to one being replaced by the other.
Nidhi, you wanted to make a point?
Yeah. So the way we see it is that there's a touch aspect, and then there is an ops part, right? So the ops part is where we use the technology to, like Sanjay said, to do more work with lesser effort. But the touch is definitely not going to go away, and it is very much required. How you augment this touch with a lot of ops in the background, giving it a great experience, at a different scale, and plus with all this new environment of work from anywhere and, flexible timings and so on. So the ops part is the one where the technology is going to aid a lot in.
So I agree that, like how they say that all the manual processes can be automated, whereas in those parts where you need, problem solving or thinking part, then, human intervention does help. So I guess it's always a collaboration between man and machine. So like Sujata mentioned, that culture fit is a very important part of your recruitment practice. So our viewers will really benefit, if you share some best practices as to how you gauge culture fit of your candidates and what kind of flexibility you have in your organization to foster, subcultures, because that's also important for, let's say, equality and inclusivity also. Nidhi, your thoughts?
Sure. So, culture is very important. Apart from the hard skills, soft skills, it's the fit that, ensures that there's a long-term retention, there's a long-term attachment. And when we call it attachment, right, it's still culture. Nagarro is a very culture-driven organization. So culture is very important for us. We have certain core values that we hold very dear to ourselves, and, something like non-hierarchical or an agile versus bureaucratic processes and mindset. And entrepreneurial mindset is what we really value. And being a global company with, the global mindset is really important. So we're looking for people who fit this, who aspire to, work in such an environment. So during a hiring process, we have this integrated as part of the hiring process in terms of, the feedback form, for example, the assessment forms have our core values as part of the assessment of the candidate. Similarly, internal, appraisals or discussions, the core values stand at the bare minimum, or in fact, not even the bare minimum, the basic discussion or any evaluation happens on the core values. And that's very, important for us. In terms of senior hiring, for example, we have a special round for culture fitment, which is then taken with a co-founder at Nagarro. So that's how much we value the culture in the organization. And, even when we have our M&A, discussions happening, the culture again takes a very, very strong place there. But that's a different discussion. But yes, culture is important. Culture is very, very important for us. And it's an integral part of our complete hiring process.
Thank you, Nidhi, for that. Would anybody else like to share a point on culture fit? Okay, so we'll move on. Candidate experience and onboarding are the two most important pillars of your recruitment practice, as well as your, employee retention. It also depends upon that, and also it speaks volume about your employer branding. So, Nanditi, Padmini, will you, help us understand how your hiring processes is equipped to enhance employee experience and onboarding experience for the for the candidates?
So let me take it in three parts, right? There are three people in the entire hiring life cycle that the candidate meets, right? First is the recruiter or the sourcer, and then the technical manager, and then the onboarding team. So what we have done at Global Logic, we've said, look, we will give them a similar experience as far as touch points are concerned. We will have these barometers at different levels, which are going to kind of gauge the candidate engagement with us. So the first point is, of course, the recruiter. When the offer is extended, I'm assuming we're talking about an onboarding experience post the offer, post selection. So once the offer is extended, the recruiter takes the candidate through the different parts of the offer, has a FAQ ready for the candidate. We send out our our brand presentations to them. We walk them through what our grade structures are, what our benefits are. And then we have what is our flagship program called the Coffee Connect with the candidates. During the offline days, of course, it was a flagship program, because we would call a candidate over on a Friday evening at 4 o'clock, and we'd say, with over a coffee, we would have a very casual conversation. We would give them goodies at that point in time. We would make them experience the Global Logic world by making them go through our office environment, explain, and there would be a lot of questions that would come up, but most of them would be at either a technical level or at something which would not, they would not be able to ask a recruiter, but the recruiter and the delivery managers facilitate that entire engagement program. Now, cut to now what we do is we do it virtually. We have a coffee connect with these candidates. We do it virtually. We tell them, get your own coffee, we'll get our coffee, and we'll have these conversations around what are you going to expect as far as your work is concerned, and what is it that you're going to get into when you come on board. So they already start experiencing the Global Logic world. We also have what we call as candidate experience partners, candidate journey partners. These people are completely independent of the recruitment function as well as the delivery function. They work along with our branding team, our marketing team, and they contact the candidate over they have these various, intervals at which they contact a candidate to understand what are some of the thoughts going through the candidate's mind. And they also send us back those feelers that, look, these are people who have been offered. You might find that he or she is not engaged. You might want to talk to this candidate. So these three touch points give us, almost a 360-degree view of a candidate's mind, a candidate's thought process. And it helps us in their onboarding experience. Now, what we find today is, earlier when they would come into the office, they would get their employee ID, they would get their ID cards, they're assigned their buddies, and they go to their desks as soon as their onboarding process is done. Today in the COVID world, what we had to also adapt to was to ensure that the email IDs were provisioned. They would join our onboarding calls in the morning. And then their email IDs are provisioned on time. All the documents, whatever statutory documents need to be collected, it's all already in our provisioning list, and it's all uploaded for the employee ID to get created. We find that initially when we started in 2020 and we started doing virtual onboarding, the candidate experience at this point was the most vulnerable. If they did not find that their email IDs and their employee numbers were not generated, say in 2-3 hours time, with the market being so volatile, they would have other job opportunities for them to go to. So that was our biggest learning. How do you provision everything at the right time to ensure superior candidate experience? The laptop reaches the house of the candidate by saying, if we start our onboarding process at 8:30, it reaches at least a day before, and it's already already set up, so he or she can log in through that laptop and join the onboarding call. So I think all these various things that we probably had to adapt for offline as well as COVID situation. I think this is perhaps the recipe of a candidate experience. How do you ensure that the touch and feel of the employee or the candidate remains despite the fact that you're working remotely.
Wonderful points, Padmini. Thank you for that. I'd like to now talk about, data analytics through hiring. So how, at what are the points in which data can be generated and how can that be used by HR and the organization for useful insights on talent? Sujata?
Yeah, I'll start it off, and would be interesting to hear from the other panelists as well on how this works, right? But before I respond to that, Pooja, just wanted to add just one more insight to the previous question. Just adding to what Padmini said, the other just that whole candidate experience management, I guess is what it's called these days, right? One thing that we've seen our clients, some of our clients do extremely well, and we are attempting that for our own employees as well, and so on, is a very powerful use of various social media networks. And it's not just about just getting them onto the company platform and putting them through the different sessions, connecting with people. I mean, but we've seen very, very smart use of companies and possibly even manager social media platforms, right? LinkedIn, Insta, stuff like that, to get them engaged and to stay engaged as they come into the organization. So just wanted to add that one comment from what our observations have been. So analytics, yeah, I think in this whole talent talent management space, right? Like I said, I think from our experience, from I mean, we've, like I said, work with very all kinds of organizations, geographically distributed, different sizes of just counts of employees, different industries, and things like that, right? I think finally there's a realization, first of all, that data is powerful, right? And it can really make a very, very significant difference to business outcomes. And that itself was a huge appreciation which happened possibly in the last couple of years. So the way so we've actually sliced it up because while MeritTrac works in the assessment space, I mean, we specialize in that, we focus on that. We are part of the larger Manipal group, right? And we do a lot of programs, I mean, do a lot of training, skilling, upskilling stuff as well, right? So the way we look at analytics is, yes, definitely in the area of hiring. We use a fair bit of analytics for our customers with whom we work to in the pre-screening, set of steps. And that goes all the way from, just a large candidate pool that's available to bringing it down to a certain shortlist, that can then go into a group discussion or a video interview kind of round. So analytics is extensively used by us to help our candidates go through these different steps in their recruitment process. And typically these are used, like I said earlier as well, is in more, of course, the technical sort of the fit for an employee, but other aspects as well. The other area where we've seen a lot of traction is, and this was a interesting question, I spoke about that briefly, is attrition prevention rather than a reaction to attrition, right? I mean, when someone quits, it's at that point that you typically find people scrambling around and saying, hey, what can we do to retain this person? And that person possibly is already moved out mentally, even if not physically. So attrition prevention is a very interesting area where we're seeing analytics getting used quite powerfully, and that's something that we are working on as well. This whole area of performance management. So we have a couple of customers. It was a eye opener for us where typically organizations have, of course, twice a year maybe, and many of them just have once a year appraisal, sort of processes. Maybe it's once a quarter, if you're really evolved as an organization, right? But we have a couple of these clients who have such a strong measurement system that throughout the year, there is an automated data collection that's actually happening for a significant chunk of an employee's KRAs. It's not 100%, but a large chunk of it is automated. And what that means is, it's not that end of the year you're suddenly trying to fill your performance against goals, and then there is this rushed appraisal cycle and so on, right? So through the year you have very clear data. The managers use analytics on this data to immediately give feedback, immediately make some corrective sort of plans and things like that for their teams. So 3 areas, Pooja, if I can summarize, are where we are seeing extensive use of analytics: hiring, of course,
Sure.
attrition prevention, and performance management. And that's only going to grow, I think.
Yeah. We'll also take an opinion from the industry leader, as how much talent analytics are being generated from the hiring process. Sanjay?
Yeah, so look, Sujata did talk about a lot of different use cases for talent analytics. We have our views, how much it works, how much it doesn't. Yeah, it's interesting. No matter, I'm not necessarily saying that I disagree with what Sujata is saying, but it's a little bit still up in there in terms of how predictive can this get. I think that's definitely an area. But if I were to just kind of look at only talent acquisition, and I look at the 3 parts of talent acquisition, and I think Attrick was also alluding to his C model. I also have my own C model. I don't know if it's the same. But, so it's like operations, right? So first is the whole scheduling part of it. And I think we can really use data. In fact, one of the things that EXL, the top recruitment leadership, is really looking at doing is just disaggregate the entire operations and just kind of look at it as a scheduled operation and see what all things can be run parallelly, what can you run sequentially, right? And that would really, really help in improving the turnaround times. The second area where we use a lot of data is, of course, increasing efficiency. And there, of course, we had a lot of examples, but really in terms of what kind of candidates, what kind of resumes, how do you, ensure that you have the right people, the right JDs to be picked up and all of that. I think the biggest area where we are using talent analytics and we are seeing great results is experience, right? And that's where I think it started mattering. And when you start looking at the data, what is available in open source. So for instance, we use LinkedIn a lot, but let's say any open source. And then you look at, you just kind of start analyzing that. It actually gives you a really good understanding of what kind of people are you talking to. It actually helps you create almost prototypes, right? So I think the big shift has to be in this industry now. And I'm sure, and maybe it'll be interesting to hear others. We as an industry in the past have always chased roles. I would recommend that we shift to, and I'm sure it's not me, everybody's doing it, to instead of chasing for roles, let's play in the total skills market. So look at skills, right? So look at a type of people, type of skills you want to hire. And if you start doing that, and then if you start saying, okay, this is the kind of experience our data is telling us that this kind of skill or these kind of people like, then it really kind of helps your talent acquisition to give a better candidate experience. We are doing that extensively. And that's where data is really coming handiest for us.
Interesting perspective, Sanjay. Since we are coming towards the end of this show, I think we must discuss, what matrices you all are using to gauge your hiring processes. I mean, And that will also help you to kind of evolve your hiring process and let us know that, what does the future look for hiring? Atirik, would you like to talk about the matrices that you are following to assess the hiring?
Yeah, I'll be consistent with what I said. Our core metrics that on which we evaluate everybody is the speed of hiring, the accuracy of hiring, and the feedback that we get. We make it a little more exhaustive rather than only asking the candidate about his experience. We also ask the hiring manager how much support they got from us in terms of quality of CVs, number of options that we were able to create for them. But what Sujata said, what Sanjay said, there is plenty of scope for us to improve. And I'll just take liberty of talking about, I was connecting with one of my business associate who's based out of Germany. And they were talking about how a social profiling can get you the right candidate. Just look at an example. We are on a Facebook, we are also on a LinkedIn. But the number of clicks we have on Facebook is drastically different from the clicks that we have on LinkedIn. What we have not been able to do, at least in India, is today look at a candidate from both perspective, right? The candidate likes traveling, candidate likes more of music, right? That's his Facebook digital footprint. And we are looking at a job where he's expected to work in shifts, hardbound, no flexibility. Okay, this is the gap that we today don't have visibility and we are not able to solve. So I really like the concept of bringing the social element along with your profile. You can do more predictive analysis. The analysis is based on data. The more data you have about what people are clicking, where they are traveling, what kind of food they like, what that kind of culture they bring on the table, I think that's a very evolving area. I would love to implement something like this for my ecosystem to ensure that each of the hires we have, if the time permits, to bring in their social profiling. But again, I mean, we also have a responsibility to support our business line. So we are who we hire, right? So eventually that becomes the philosophy of the organization. So today we focus primarily on the speed of hiring, the quality of hire, and the accuracy of people that we choose.
Nidhi, your thoughts?
Yeah, of course, the one metric that we all look at is, how many people we hired. But yeah, going a little upstream, the number of offers that we're releasing. Also, when we are looking at the complete hiring, process, we're also looking at the lead sourcing, right? So when we talk about, having these different campaigns to attract people, to have the resumes come in, to be able to track where we are spending, right? So how much money is being spent for different sourcing channels, and then what are we getting in return, is something that we track. Every dollar that we have, how do we spend it, where do we spend it? To be able to do that, we need to identify our more efficient sourcing channels as well.
Padmini, in the last, would you like to tell us that what do you see as the future of hiring? What are one or two outcomes that you would want from maybe a recruitment partner with respect to hiring?
When you say recruitment partner, you mean someone who's supporting us as
yes, with the tech or with SaaS?
Okay. Well, the expectation is that can they also help us make the candidates take those assessments, because today a candidate has so many choices. They do not want to take these assessments the moment they hear, and they know the difficulty level of all these assessments that are there in the market. So the moment they hear that there's one platform that we're using, they do not want to take the test. They do not want to attempt it. So is there a way that they can get candidates to come to the table? What is it that they can do to brand themselves as people who would be enablers of the entire process, instead of someone who's the gate for those selection process? That's my
interesting thought. So in the last, I just want to take one audience question, is that how do you leverage social media to attract candidates? And we've had 1 or 2 questions from the audience also on it. So anybody would like to take a take on that?
I'll let the others answer, but I would ask the question, what else do you do to attract talent now? Because I think we're getting into a situation, and I think that should be a part of the answer, where social media is probably, if not now, but very soon is going to be the primary area for us to engage with talent. In certain ways, also what Athirik said is really important. How do you kind of start connecting with potential talent out there in a more pervasive fashion than just the 4 walls of the organization and what it offers? So how do you bring your I don't know if the question is so much about specifically what are the tactics on social media, but I think what really is critical and what we at EXL are attempting to do is bring the entire EXL brand value and bring the entire company strategy and its kind of therefore the downstream impact on value and value creation to people through social media, right? And that's really important, because when you look at future talent, while they're asking about money, and I know we had this longest conversation at the outset, which almost painted career seekers in a very negative kind of, okay, they're just chasing money. But actually, if you just dig a little bit, they're actually chasing value, right? Of course, money is important, but if you can link the company strategy to everybody's roles, and then if you can create that compelling story in an imaginative fashion on the social media, I think you will be very successful. We are getting success there.
That's a very interesting point. And thank you, Sanjay, for bringing that, because somehow we missed the purpose angle and you brought that. Today's candidates are also looking for solid purpose alignment. And if that can come through, your social media engagement with them, it will really help to attract the right talent. So with that, thank you, Nidhi, Padmini, Athirik, Sujata, and Sanjay for joining us today for this wonderful discussion. Viewers, I hope you found this session, great, and you're walking with great takeaways. I hope a lot of ground was covered. Thank you for joining us for this excellent roundtable. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Guys, all
Thanks,
the best.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.